Christ has risen. He has risen indeed. Alleluia. It's true, and it's why we celebrate today. Remembering Jesus' defeat of death and the good news that no grave could hold him down. The good news that the cross, once an image of death and of ending, has been repurposed. Now, it reminds us that death is not the end. The cross is empty, as is the tomb. What we thought was an ending was actually the beginning of God's forever and ever Amen. For he is risen. He is risen indeed. But let me ask you a question, and it's a variation of a question that Jesus asked the disciples and then Peter directly. Who do you say has risen? Jesus? Yes, but who is that? The Messiah? Fair, but as my nephew might push you, what does that mean? For Mark, the power of the empty tomb is in its underlining that Jesus is exactly who he said he was this entire time. Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James, and Salome arrive at the tomb, here at the end of the gospel, to find the stone rolled away, missing, like a discarded period at what would be the end of a sentence. Here, in what should be an ending, they go to anoint Jesus' body after his death, and what turns into an ellipsis, or a beginning of a new chapter. Where Jesus' body should be, instead we find an angelic youth who says, "Do not be alarmed. You are looking for Jesus of Nazareth," and then sends us out. In the district of Somerset, England, there's a small village named East Coker. In the Anglican parish of St. Michael, there you will find the remains of renowned poet Thomas Stearns Eliot. Inscribed on the hatchment behind which T.S. Eliot's ashes rest is a quote, "In my beginning is my end. In my end is my beginning." The words are a testament to Eliot's faith. In my end is my beginning. As we share a death like Christ's, we too will share a resurrection like his. Those two great acts of baptism, first being baptized into death, and then being welcomed into the life thereafter. This shows us the truth that as children of Easter, as people of faith, it is in our ending that we find our beginning. As those clothed in white, gathered around with the Lamb at the center, in our ending is our beginning. Though in Mark's story, he's more literal than theological or philosophical. The angelic youth says to the women, "Go, tell his disciples and Peter that he is going ahead of you to Galilee. There you will see him, just as he told you. Go back to where it all began, and there you will see that it is just as he told you it would be. Go back to the beginning. Go back to Galilee." It was by the Sea of Galilee that Jesus called Peter and Andrew, James and John. It was there where this whole ministry began. At this ending, we are now directed to go back to the beginning. This time, however, we know with certainty the things that Jesus tried to teach us the first time around. He is risen, and so we know that it is true, all of it. Everything he said. We know this because he is risen indeed, just like he said. Everything the disciples missed, everything that Peter was confounded by, now we see and now we know that it was true. Now we understand why Mark's gospel begins the beginning of the good news of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. We know why it's good news, and that is because it is all true, every word of it. And we know that because the tomb is empty, because he was crucified, and now he is risen. There at the beginning of Mark's gospel, it's important here to note that the first person to acknowledge Jesus as the Son of God was a man with an unclean spirit, one who cried out in the very first chapter of the gospel, "What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." That title, Jesus of Nazareth, bookends Mark's gospel. The possessed man was right, and today the angelic youth is right too. Everything you've heard is right. It is correct. Jesus of Nazareth is the Holy One of God. The spirit was cast out. There were people that were healed, multitudes fed, storms calmed. The sea was walked upon. Death was defeated. Jesus of Nazareth is the Holy One of God. We know that with certainty because he is risen. In the beginning was the end. Jesus of Nazareth, the Holy One of God. In the ending is our beginning, our starting point to hear the gospel anew and to share it with others. Jesus Christ is the Holy One of God. Now, T.S. Eliot is considered to be one of the 20th century's greatest poets. He is best known for his poem, The Waste Land, and his collection, 4 quartets. Though that's not what he was known for in the house of my youth. See, when my older brother was in 8th grade, he had to memorize a poem for English class. So he picked T.S. Eliot's The Naming of Cats. This poem begins, and I quote, "The naming of cats is a difficult matter. It isn't just one of your holiday games. You may think at first I'm as mad as a hatter when I tell you a cat must have 3 different names." The poem continues to describe the 3 different names that every cat has. First is the name that the family call it, its everyday name. Then there's a peculiar name that each cat has. But finally, there is that name that only the cat itself knows. About this, Eliot writes, and I quote, "When you notice a cat in profound meditation, the reason I tell you is always the same. His mind is engaged in a rapt contemplation on the thought of the thought of the thought of his name, his ineffable, effable, ineffable, effable, deep and inscrutable, singular name." That third name is the cat's truest self, known only to itself. I like this reminder of the parts of ourselves that we do not share for whatever the reason, the things that we all keep hidden and ponder from time to time in profound meditation. This is true for all of us, that we are known in different ways and called different things. We are called by different names, by different people. I know that T.S. Eliot knew this too. But consider this. In the end is the beginning, and in the beginning God created, God named, and God loved creation, for it is good. And in the beginning the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And in the beginning, God spoke to you, calling you by your ineffable, effable, ineffable, effable, deep, inscrutable, singular name, before you were formed in the womb. We gather this day to share that good news with all the world. The good news that everything Jesus said was true all the way from the beginning. The question is this: who do you say is risen? The one who is wrapped in swaddling clothes, the one baptized by John in the river Jordan, the one lifted high on a cross, the one who defeated death, the one who was there in the beginning, creating, naming, and loving you for exactly who you are. Yes, the one who has risen is all these things. It is Jesus of Nazareth, the one who calls us to new life beyond our ending and welcomes us into God's forever and ever. Amen.